to share that with the group and to anyone who wasn't able to attend today. And just a little special link that goes right to you. Today we are very excited to have two really popular and fantastic restaurateurs and also chefs, food delivery service, and two Eat South Shore participants. So I'm going to introduce Courtney Doyle from Clandestine Kitchen and Jacqui Berardi from Jack's Cafe and Players Sports Bar and Grille in Rockland. And our moderator and sponsor, Jacqueline Collins, who is with Partnering for Performance, but also 3 Mentor Advisory. So Jackie, do you want to start?
Sure.
Sorry, Jacqueline Collins.
That's okay. I know Jackie was probably like, oh my God, what am I supposed to say? Where do I look? So thank you. It's really great to see everybody. So as Heather said, my company is actually Partnering for Performance, but a year ago, myself and Amy Zintel, who is on the call, who is managing partner of Service Sense, and Michelle Hatch of Pazurski Hatch and Company, which is a CPA firm, decided to get together and we formed a mini initiative under 3 Mentor Advisory. And what we do is we actually work with women in business, helping them, especially these days, retool, evaluate their businesses, maybe kind of check in and say, you know, what are you doing that you need to change? Where do you want to go this year? So we're really excited to be together in this. And so if anybody knows any women in business who could use some help, we have everything covered from coaching and leadership to customer experience to financial advice. So that's who 3 Mentor is. And I'm proud to be a sponsor of this series.
Great, thanks, Jackie.
Thank you, Jackie.
So now for the questions. Jackie and Courtney, are you guys ready?
Yep.
Ready.
Okay, so this is women in leadership and local women in leadership. And it's really exciting to get to know 2 other women who I haven't met before. So it's very nice meeting you. So when you talk about leadership, and I think putting it in the perspective also of what's been going on since last March to now, though there are particular characteristics and styles you each may have that help you be successful in a leadership role, I'm going to ask a 2-pronged question. What leadership means to you? And is there anything that you've had to change or enhance or learn given the pandemic and the limitations it has put on your businesses and the world out there? So Courtney, can I start with you?
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Courtney Doyle. I own Clandestine Kitchen. We are a healthy home and corporate meal delivery service. Our commercial kitchen is located in Duxbury, Massachusetts, and we service the entire South Shore. So we recently just added the remaining towns that we hadn't yet touched. So now we're all over, which is awesome. So to answer the first part of your question, leadership to me personally means, I feel like it means something to me and also to our brand. And it's basically one and the same. It does me no good to be an entrepreneur and run a business if I have to be operating every single aspect of the business at all times. So internally, being a leader in my particular business is, really helping to bring up the chef team that we've hired, the delivery team that we've hired, spending the time behind the scenes to learn the intricacies so that you can actually help coach and teach future leaders or other people who are able to step up and become a leader. So to me, that's a success as a leader, is if I've got a team that runs without me, that is leading each other, helping each other, and that really I can step away to focus on other aspects, which kind of brings me to what I think for our brand leadership means. Yes, we do our healthy home and corporate meal delivery. We also have a total body wellness aspect to our brand. If you look at our website, clandestinekitchen.com, we have various editors and contributors who post to our blog regarding various aspects of total body wellness. So to us, being able to provide ready prepared meals that are totally healthy. We take a clean approach, so it's very little local sea salt. We have no sugars added, and we make all of our own dressings and sauces in that same clean idea. So everything that you're eating, we try to keep the meals around 400 to 500 calories and our snacks around 200 to 300 calories, depending upon what it is, so that you can have healthy nutrition ready for you no matter what's going on in your week. We offer our meal delivery service throughout the week. We don't work on the weekends, so our whole team just jams all week, and then we take a break on the weekends. And for us, that gives us a little bit of room to promote our community leadership, which to me is the most important part of leadership right now. We've had a huge give back initiative in the community. I know Jackie has too, which is one of the reasons why I love doing this with her. I think we're very similar in that regard, where, our business means nothing if it's not serving the community. I didn't start a business for myself, started it for the community. So to me, being a leader in the community is really helping to set that tone of giving back, being all inclusive, and really helping to promote health and happiness.
Oh, great. Thank you, Courtney. Thank you very much. Jackie.
Hi, so I'm Jacqui Berardi from Jack's Cafe and Players Sports Bar and Grill in Rockland. We have function spaces here, as well as catering services, as well as eat-in and now very heavy takeout services in light of the pandemic in the past year. Interesting enough, the leadership role has changed a lot for me in the past year. I've been trying for the past almost 9 years, kind of go from when I bought Players Sports Bar and Grill. It was here before it was existing. I bought it in 2012. It was about 4 years old at the time. It had been kind of being ran poorly, and I kind of got in as a worker bee, 28 years old, just kind of, I'm going to do everything. I've done all these positions over the years. I've been in the restaurant industry since I was 14 years old, and just kind of thought leadership would be more of, I'm going to show them how hard I work, and then hopefully my team is going to follow suit. It doesn't always work that way. And also I was kind of neglecting a little bit of the numbers and all those things. I was just working and bringing in clientele and being the face of the business, and working myself. Whereas then I opened up the cafe, I had a child, there was a lot of other things going on, being the creative director behind all of these things, also the marketing, the pictures, I mean, everything. The specials, I, was trained in culinary arts. I've worked in kitchens. I just don't particularly like to always be in the kitchen because I'm more of an out front type of person. But now for me, I've been trying to grow the business into the sense that, like Courtney said, if I have to be here all the time, which is kind of physically impossible because my business opens at 5:30 in the morning on one side and closes at 1 a.m. on the other. As well as I'm always the one you'll see at all the community events, the one that's out there in the local, in Rockland alone. I do a ton of work with the youth organizations, and then also try to be a part of the chamber and do all these other events. So in the past year, in a weird way, even though I would have liked to have not taken the financial losses that we've taken, I've really been able to step back and kind of step more into my leadership role, whereas I'm putting people in place and we're kind of rebuilding. From all aspects. And I think moving forward, it's going to help me a ton, that not that this happened, but that I was able to, for once, stop and take a look at the big picture, because I've always just been working, and feeling like I needed to apologize if I wasn't here in the morning because someone came by and they texted me, hey, Jackie, we came by the cafe, we didn't see you, and so it's nice to be able to really put my team into more of the leadership positions and add in, now that we've kind of drawn back on a lot of our staffing, and then been able to add in the right people and train them the right way, so that I can kind of oversee the big picture and not always be the worker bee doing the job of everyone at once. So that's kind of, for me, the leadership change that I've been trying to go to, and it's really been able to kind of come full force now that we've been in this position in the past year.
We're both here this morning, so that's huge.
Yeah, and it's great to hear what you've done, both of you, because it's very typical of small business owners that I talk to, that this period of time has forced them to step away and saying, Jackie, for you example, how could you possibly be there from 5:30 in the morning to 1 o'clock the following morning? You can't. But it's kind of it. small business owners fall into, is doing everything, you know, and at some point you need somebody up here putting other people in place. So, you know, Courtney, with, you know, the different product lines or service lines that you've introduced, Jackie, the fact that you've gotten your teams together and you have designated people, which lets you off the hook and you doing what you need to do, is such a typical, such typical business decisions that I'm seeing now. And kudos to both of you, because clearly you've worked it out. So you have set yourselves up for success, which equals sustainability, right? So you have to sustain what you have before you can move forward and grow. So I think you both sound like you're in a really good position. So great examples. You actually answered a couple questions ahead of time, which is great. Well, it fit in here. So that's awesome. So what I'd like to go back to, though, for a minute is the community involvement that you both have. Given that you, I don't know how you work this, you know, with a pandemic and things being closed down and not being able to be in person, how have you been able to, what have you put into place to continue the community involvement? Because it sounds like you both have still continued that initiative. So Courtney?
So this past year, one of the ways that we were able to give back, and I will preface this by saying my meal delivery business is a different animal from Jackie's restaurant ownership.
Right.
If you can have a business that's COVID friendly, it's anything delivery, right? So
Right.
we did close down for the month of March last year. So we did experience a loss and have to pivot a little bit. That was at the time when, you know, everyone thought COVID still lived on surfaces. Nobody wanted anyone touching anything, you know, so we all just decided, let's just take a break and regroup. But I know that for our friends in the restaurant industry, it's been a much more ongoing, difficult struggle. So I want to make sure that that's, you know, noted.
Yeah.
But for us, you know, we really fell into an initiative with South Shore Hospital for feeding the frontline workers. We were able to continue to operate and continue to donate meals. We did a couple pop-ups where we had community clients order, and then their order would also pay for an order to go to South Shore Hospital. We did that a couple of times when we were first getting going. And then we were fortunate enough to bring most of our clientele back, honestly, by summertime, which was awesome. And so we were able to then just transition into full donations to the hospital. So we built that in as often as we could, be that once a month, once a week, you know, whatever our team could handle. So we now have signed on with South Shore Hospital as a President's Circle member, which is a $25,000 promise over the next 5 years. And that's a combination of funds and in-kind meal donations to help their programs. They, in turn, their organization, the South Shore Health Foundation is what supports the hospital and the frontline workers right now. And so they've been able to transition into, you know, Zoom events. We just had one last week, Zoom meetings. I do a lot of no contact drop-offs at the hospital, you know, things of that nature. It's actually National Hospitals Day today. So we're providing lunch for the whole South Shore Health Foundation and some of the doctors and staff there today. So that's been one passionate give back opportunity that has cropped up because of this pandemic. I'm not necessarily sure that would have been front and center on our radar unless this happened. But then also just really trying to support, like, Jackie and our fellow friends in the restaurant industry. You know, we would order and pay for takeout dinner for our whole staff once a week in the first couple months of the pandemic to help support restaurants. We try to help promote our friends in the restaurant industry on our social media as much as we can by tagging their food and saying, you know, what we're eating on our chef's day off and, you know, things like that. So really just trying to help our own food industry community, the frontline workers and that part of the community, and then really targeting certain organizations like the Magical Moon Foundation. We did a huge fundraiser where we donated around $3,500 to them to help save the farm because they can't have in-person fundraisers anymore. So we're trying to find local community organizations that have been impacted by COVID and try to step in and help them as much as we can by doing pop-ups and making donations wherever there's a need.
So you have a very robust giving back initiative.
We do. It's a really big piece of our brand. So that's something that's really important to us. And we've been fortunate enough to be able to continue to do it. It looks different now. You know, I used to see fun events all over the South Shore. I haven't like seen you in person in forever because we can't do those things anymore. So it definitely looks different now. It's just, you know, I feel like we've just been having to be more creative in figuring out ways to continue to support.
Right. Well, thank you. Thank you very much. Jacqui, so you're on another part of the spectrum as a restaurant. And we all know that the restaurant industry, what they're going through. So how would you respond to the question? Like, have you been able to continue the community giving?
So it's kind of a two-part answer for me. We have been able to, throughout time, and especially in the later months that we've had, been able to still be part of the community and do a lot more give backs. When a lot of the businesses reopened, we went around and dropped off 6-packs of our homemade donuts from the cafe with a little card, just saying that we're all in this together and letting them know of our services, because we do obviously have our curbside pickup. We can do contactless deliveries. But for me, I think the biggest thing is that I've been so involved in the community here, especially in Rockland and the surrounding towns, that it was the first time ever that I needed them to support me rather than me always supporting them. With those organizations, I mean, obviously they support me all the time by coming in before, but I mean, really, I've always been, I don't think I've ever said no to anybody before. And it's put me in a real tough position this time where like donations, people were still calling for donations when we were shut down for 13 weeks, things like that. It was really tough for me to say no at certain times, but we've been able to, the organizations that we've always worked with, and organizations we've always had very close relationships with, they've been amazing. I mean, with sharing our posts on social media, just coming in alone or having a gathering, maybe a small family gathering at their house, doing a contactless delivery from us. We've just really seen that give back. I mean, I've literally sat there in my office and like cried sometimes because of the amount of feedback and help that we've got from organizations that we've helped over the years. So I think it's kind of the first time we've ever needed them to really help us. And I think if I didn't have those strong ties with a lot of those organizations, I don't know how much, I'm sure everybody out there is wanting to support the local restaurants, but I think I had more support than maybe some of the other places because I've always been there for them.
And which goes to that, you know, if you ask somebody or ask an organization, what can I do for you? That it comes full circle when you need it.
Yes.
And you don't even have to ask. So that's a great story.
And I never really thought that I've never done any of this, or I never opened up the restaurants or gave back to any of those organizations or done the donations I've done with expecting to ask for something in return.
Yeah.
So it was just so humbling to see it come back the way that it did when we opened up for takeout at first, and then the curbside, and then just the small amounts of people coming in, our outdoor areas. It's just been very humbling and amazing to see that kind of return come back to us.
Wow, I'm happy for you. That's great. It's really great. So I have another question while I'm focusing on you, Jacqui. Where do you see the industry actually heading? You know, I mean, that's kind of a big question, but I'm curious about all the challenges that your industry has had to face, and a lot of changes that some restaurant owners have had to do. And so when we come out into this normal, whatever that looks like, it's going to be a new normal. I think we all know that. How has the industry shifted, do you think, in your opinion, to meet what the new normal is? Like, what will that look like? You know, like, for example, it may not look like, 300 people in a room at the same time anymore. You know, I don't know if that's the case, but I have to wonder. And I think a lot of people on the call, and even people, that I talk to on other Zoom calls, always wonder, what will the restaurants look like at the end of the tunnel? What will the differences be?
I think about that all the time, especially during everything that was going on and the new guidelines being announced. It seemed like almost weekly at some point. And we were constantly catching up on the new guideline and having to, start that 3 days later. And my sports bar, the capacity is 276 people because I have 2 function rooms. I have a, live entertainment stage. Those are all things where I normally have those events because needing to fill the 276, people capacity. And that, I don't know if that will ever even come back to that number ever again. So it's been really interesting and, definitely made us more aware of things we need to do in order to still be able to make our numbers without having those big kind of standing events where there's standing room with 276 people. I'm not really sure where we're going to end up as far as like live entertainment and a dance floor and bands. I know eventually that will come back, but like we have a Sunday blues jam that's every Sunday normally from 4 to 8. It predominantly is an older demographic. So then it's like, what's going to happen with that? Because they're more susceptible to maybe COVID. And then obviously with everybody getting the vaccines, hopefully it won't affect it as much as it could down the road when we can have those events again. But those are all things that are constantly going through my mind. For us, I know that the curbside takeout will stay. That has been huge. We've always had a large takeout business, especially on the breakfast side, because we're a small cafe, but people want our food and they don't want to always wait in line for a table. So we've really been able to kind of, I don't want to say perfect, but really hone in on those certain aspects of making it a seamless delivery. Seamless pickup for them. So those are things definitely that I think people are still willing to eat out, maybe just to take a lot longer for people to be more comfortable. But it is definitely a little bit of I still don't know how to answer the question with the live entertainment and the dance floors and things like that. I'm still kind of waiting to see what's going to happen. But I will love it when we're allowed to start to have like at least an acoustic, like a solo person. Because people are really, really, the people that are comfortable coming out now and the spacing and everything, people really do want to enjoy the live music while they're eating or having drinks.
Well, I didn't mean to put you on the spot. I figured since I had a restaurant owner.
Oh, no, feel free.
I was curious to know what was running through your mind.
Oh, it's the things that I think of constantly.
So yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure. Well, thank you for being a good sport and answering that. Yeah. Courtney, what about from where you sit and what do you see for the industry?
So it's interesting for us, separately as meal delivery, like Jackie just touched on, restaurants, she has such a great, takeout business or had anyway, which is awesome. But I know a lot of restaurants didn't. And so trying to figure out, not all food travels well. So trying to figure out what those items are, revamping menus, now who's taking it to you, right? Like Jackie's not driving food to your house, right? Who's bringing food to your house? So, I've spent the last 3 years building a business focused on how to do that. And restaurants had to figure that out in 13 weeks, So it definitely, I feel like for our meal delivery side, we had a little less pivoting to do, but still going into the pandemic, we were using personal vehicle delivery drivers, still our payroll, our people. We never did, Uber Eats or any of those services. We've always handled our own delivery. But we saw, okay, this is going to become the way that we're heading, at least for the near future, if not longer. And so we decided to make the investment to purchase our refrigerated delivery vans. So that was a huge, step for us during the pandemic that we were going to make eventually, but really kind of felt the pressure to lock it down, make the business tight, make the business model strong, and then grow it from there. So that was a lot of scrambling. I've never operated a full-on delivery fleet before. So, that was a lot of 24/7 learning and training and getting that all under control. So I do feel like there has been, even for, what I do in the food industry, definitely some things that have had to be done in order to be successful and to stand out in your niche, basically. So that, and then menu planning. So, unfortunately for restaurants, fortunately for me, there's a lot of talent out there right now that, was either laid off or moved on or their restaurant closed. I brought on several new chefs in the last 12 months and, they're rock stars, they're awesome. And so really trying to coach them into, coming up with those menu creations, not only working with our farms and local partners, but it's got to work for what we do. All we do is delivery. All our food does is travel. So, we have to be mindful of those kinds of things. So, there's definitely been some elements of our business that we've had to rethink and restructure and accelerate a little.
So something that you said about not all food necessarily travels well. I know we have had that experience or something we've had in a restaurant that we usually would go to, you know, we get it home and we open it up and it's like, okay, now it doesn't taste the same if you have to reheat it. You know, it can be globby. I don't know. So we thought, oh, maybe this restaurant shouldn't have this on their takeout menu. I mean, just, you know, naturally finding that path. So I can appreciate and imagine how difficult that is, you know, figuring out what does travel well and still looks appetizing when the customer looks at it, because that's the customer experience, right? What do they need to experience these days where they can't say, well, I'm going in and the service was great and, you know, their napkins were folded well or whatever they're saying, right? You know, the presentation. But now it's takeout. So what do customers expect as an experience when they call and they come and pick it up or it's delivered? You know, that's a whole nother level of customer experience. Would you agree with that?
I do think also for Jackie too, just quickly, she does a phenomenal job of this and we're really trying to do this as well. All we do is takeout. Customers only see our food in containers. They never see our plate. So we've really tried to ramp up our Instagram presence, our Facebook presence, and plate the food and say, you know, yeah, you're going to get it delivered to you, obviously to go, but here's how you can beautifully display it for your family on a Tuesday night, you know, so.
No, that's great. Well, I have one more question, Jackie, before I get to you. So what about the container that you put food in? Because a lot of the containers are, you know, not so appealing. So would you have to have a different type of container? I know Heather's laughing, but it's true. I'm sure there's other people on the call that have experienced that. So does that now put another pressure on as far as what type of containers do I use? And Courtney, you're shaking your head. Yes. What does that mean for you? Have you had to invest some more money? Or Courtney, Jackie, I meant either one of you, both of you.
I think it's been, for us, we were already looking into more eco-friendly to-go containers on both sides, especially at the cafe, to start with that first, right before this actually had happened. And then unfortunately, the prices of everything skyrocketed to go, you know, gloves. I was paying $30 a case before. Now I'm paying, you know, $108 a case. And I'm
oh my God. Wow.
5 or 6 cases of gloves a week between both restaurants. So things like that. And then especially at the beginning when it was takeout only, you're already operating with just food and well, obviously the bar side normally has alcohol sales. Our profit margin already was, you know, this small. So unfortunately we weren't able to completely switch into 100% eco-friendly for us, which we would have loved to have done, but we didn't have any pricing already kind of set in place or already been ordering them. But we try to do the best we can with kind of combining a little bit of both and separating things. It's always a matter of some things, you know, you can plate on one dish and it looks great, but it needs to be in 3 different containers in order for it to travel well and then be put together by the guest. So.
Yeah, it's funny you say that, Jackie, too, because we've had a similar experience with containers. Right now, we use recyclable black bottom containers. I don't love it. You know, we're trying to move into the natural fiber. The problem is, so, you know, at a restaurant, you're typically ordering something that you're going to go pick up, bring home, enjoy right away. Mm-hmm. For us, our meal delivery, we deliver to a family or to a business, you know, once a week. They're ordering generally for 2 to 3 nights of meals. So I need containers that are going to stand up, you know, fully with food, having been cooked, cooled, plated, closed, refrigerated for 3 to 4 days. A lot of our families order all of the meals that we feature for the week, and then they eat them throughout the week. So we were getting feedback when we were trying various the plant fiber containers that containers were breaking down. They don't seal very well. Nothing tasted as fresh. They were leaking, you know, so it's an ongoing struggle, not to mention now it's the cost, because we're experiencing the same thing you are, obviously, with every containers, gloves, bags, you know, everything. The prices are through the roof right now. So making any big switches right now, unfortunately, is just not doable.
What about you know, we hear a lot about the supply chain. How does this affect the restaurant industry? Are you able to get the products that you need to make these meals? Do you get them timely? Are they more expensive like everything else? I mean, what is happening with you, Jackie?
The prices are definitely fluctuating more than ever on especially meats. They still are. Yeah, we definitely have. There's been a lot of times where big vendors that we use, reliable vendors, they're running out of things because of the way that the chain works. So then we've had it. We went to our limited menu back when we reopened the indoor and outdoor dining, and we've kept that same limited menu on both sides, just because. And then like items that before were classic players dishes or classic Jack's dishes now are ran as specials, because we can't guarantee to always have those items coming in every week. So at least we're able to pull them off the specials, because you can't explain to every guest that calls the reason, or every guest that, the reason why they think it's us, but it's really, it's, you know, the process of the way that the chain works. So we've definitely experienced that. I'm hoping that, you know, down the road, as everything hopefully goes back to whatever the new norm is, that's not as much of a problem. But we've kept that limited menu still to this day, and I don't know when we'll be able to actually go back to more of a fuller menu. But we are at least able to have our specials and things like that, because it has a huge issue making sure that we have the consistent products coming in. And I'm just one of those people from the beginning of my days, I'll never substitute with a lesser product, so I'd rather pull it off something that's not the way it's supposed to be.
Right. So your customers have the expectations of quality no matter what it is. We all know it just takes that one time for something not to be so good. And that's all anybody talks about. So I imagine the restaurant industry, that's really important.
It is. Really important. It is. And it's been, I think, more important than ever during this time, especially. And then we're relying on all these other vendors to bring us the product that we normally would get. And then who they're getting it from, you know, directly from the source, is then falling short. So there's no really blame game in it. It's just that that's what happens. And it
is what it is right now, right? Courtney, what about you?
We have a little bit different model. We source local and small anyway. So we've had less of an issue with food product. You know, we meet with the local farmers, and then we use Katsurubis for our organic vegetables, and they've been awesome getting us what we need. So we change our menu every week. So it's a little different. You know, I'm able to have a conversation with the farmers, with Katsurubis, and say, okay, let me know, how are things? How does this look? Can I pull this off? What do you think? There's always last minute substitutions that may have to, you may need to use a purple kale instead of the green kale that we advertise.
Right.
But minor things like that. The bigger issue, though, to Jackie's point, is the larger vendors. So, you know, where we used to be able to call up and say, hey, oh no, we need bags, or I need more gloves. That's just not possible anymore, especially where we are in Duxbury. We're a little bit off the beaten path. So, you know, Reinhardt, who's, you know, supplying our bags for us, only comes down there like once a week at this point. They used to come every day. So I've really got to plan in advance what I think our orders are going to look like next week. Are we going to have enough of our paper goods that we need? You know, things of that nature. So that's been more of a dance for us. Less so with the food, just because of the way our model is structured, with our menu being like a chef's choice menu every week, really. It's been a little bit easier to navigate, but oh yeah, trying to work with the vendors right now, that supply chain all the way from the beginning, I think it's just difficult. And it changes all the time too, because as restrictions change for restaurants, it may be that, you know, they're coming down to Duxbury because the Anchor and the Oysterman and all of the great restaurants down there are open and thriving and doing great. And then all of a sudden you've got a 2-week shutdown somewhere, and now we're back to 1 day a week or 2 days, you know. So it's a constantly changing environment.
Yeah, I'm sure. So I feel like I'm having a private conversation with the both of you. I have so many questions I could ask you, but I'd like to open it a bit, at least right now, to find out if anybody on the call, any participants, have some questions for Jackie and Courtney. Anything written?
I do. I have a question. You both gave such good answers about your leadership, you know, your leadership styles, and it made me think about an organization that I'm volunteering for right now that's on a pretty steep growth trajectory, and the CEO is at the point where she really needs to build a group of advisors to fill in the gaps with where her expertise is not. Do you have like either a formal advisory board or just, you know, informal friends, family, colleagues, and what are those competencies that you look to for outside help?
Great question.
I'll say for us, we've been pretty grassroots. So I don't have a board. We don't even have investors. We're a totally self-funded business. I started this 3 years ago, just from scratch, and kind of used my own community. I live in Hingham, and I have 3 kids. So, we're just involved all over the place. I know Jackie has similar experience in Rockland. You're sort of involved in the town that you're in. It seems like a good place to start. I will say though, that as our business has grown, I have so many mentors, not only in the food industry to help me with that end, but then we now also have our wellness team of editors who contribute articles. I don't know everything, every aspect of total body wellness, nor would I pretend to. So outsourcing, finding your local experts. I do believe that the more that you can involve the local community, our wellness editors, if you take a look at that roll call, they've all got established successful businesses in and of their own right, with their own clienteles, with their own outreach, with their own advisors. And you then basically now have access to who their advisors are and where they're being advised, not only just to them. So it's kind of a tiered approach. I do think surrounding yourself with people who know a lot more than you do is the way to go, right? In every aspect of business. But I don't necessarily think it has to look like a formal board of advisors. That, really finding the people who are experts in the areas that you feel like your business needs more growth or needs more attention, can be as simple as, using your own resources for outreach and relying on people who are already involved with you to reach out for you themselves.
So yeah, I don't have a formal advisory board either. I 100% own both of the restaurants. And like I said earlier, I kind of started from the ground here, doing everything, then started the cafe from scratch. I'm originally from the Newton area. So when I moved down here and bought Players, I wasn't even from the South Shore area. So I didn't have any immediate colleagues that I'd worked with in the past that lived in the area, or anybody I could directly go to. I kind of just had to talk to the people that were coming in, see what was going on. Got super involved with the chamber, obviously. Being involved with Eat South Shore has been amazing for me because it's brought me close with some other restaurant owners in the area. And everybody has a different restaurant, a different thing going on, but you see what they do. You're able to see some of the cool ideas they have, and then be like, oh, and it just inspires me to do other things, whether it's on the cafe side or the bar side. As to what Courtney just said, I've always said if I'm the smartest person in the room, then I'm in the wrong room. So I try to when I can get into rooms or be friendly with people or meet people that I can ask some questions to. I'm definitely a true Virgo, like perfectionist. I overthink everything. So it works in my favor sometimes that I'm an overthinker, in the sense that when I do have an idea, I kind of think of A to Z fully before I implement it at all times. But with kind of the growth of where I want the business to go, I need to actually bring in some more managers, because for like the first 5 years, I was the only manager on both sides running everything. And now I have, a really great floor manager at the bar. I say the bar, but it's a restaurant bar. And then obviously we have our chef at Jack's, which is amazing, and she's super creative. And I just need to kind of build more on that to build more of a team. My team's awesome that I have, but I do need more of a management team so that we can continue to execute these ideas that we come up with, because sometimes we can't do everything we want to do because we don't have enough people to fully execute it or whatever. But
I would also add to that, one thing that the last year has helped for us is every week we try to partner with another local business. We do pop-up deliveries a lot. So, our regular meal service is more of a 6 to 8 week subscription. So you sign up for a couple weeks. It's only $35 minimum, but you're still getting food from us regularly. For people who either can't or don't want to do that, we do offer a pop-up every week, usually 1 or 2, where anybody can order it. And as long as they live on the South Shore, we'll deliver it. And we've been trying to partner with other local business owners. So the restaurants, we're actually going to do something fun with Jackie next week. So excited. But we've been trying to partner with a lot of other local restaurants and business owners to bring that collaboration together. It's just so much better. We reach more people. We have fun doing it. It's great for our teams. And I will say, to echo what Jackie just said, the Eat South Shore was huge. It's always been awesome, but I don't know. I was kind of more of a fly on the wall because I don't own a restaurant, but I was involved in all the conversations and all that. I have met some awesome restaurateurs, and the conversations and the group chats and the texts and everything last year, I really feel like helped pull a lot of people through, even if it was just, don't give up, we got this.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So you gave each other emotional support, advisory support, all of those important things. That's great. Says a lot for the group. So does another question from somebody else? No. So I have a question though of both of you. How do you decompress? What do you do? What's your, what's your thing to help you kind of come down and get your head together?
I know, sorry, I can go, but for me, the gym has always been my decompression on a daily basis. It's not really about like the physical. I mean, obviously, if you look great after the fact, that's awesome. But it's my only hour of mental space, the kind of mental clarity that I have when I'm able to work out at the gym. And I've went through phases where I've been so focused and been here early in the morning, late at night, and kind of missed out on that. And then I realized that I can't run my companies the way that I need to if I'm not taking care of myself. So the gym has been a huge thing for me on a daily basis, even if I only fit in, 30 minutes before I get to work. But I actually took my players' emails off my personal phone a couple of years ago. And I still find myself sometimes apologizing to people when I write back 36 hours later. But I had to do that. I have a child, and Mondays and Tuesdays with him are super important. He doesn't get to see me on the weekends. I work doubles all weekend. So I really need that time with him. And before, when I had the emails constantly coming in, I found myself sitting there on my couch, not, he's on doing whatever, but then I'm sitting there writing back on emails on a Monday for something that's happening in 2 months from now that really that email could wait. I mean, I think we all kind of get into a factor where we think we have to like immediately write back to everything, immediate gratification on things. And for me, it might not be what works for other people, but for me, I have to take my like 2-day break. And if I come into the office on Mondays or Tuesdays and I decide to, get back to some emails to get myself ahead for the week when I come back on Wednesday, then great, because it helps my week go by better. But if I need to also decide to be on Monday and Tuesday, just spend the time on myself and my son, then that's what helps me be a better business owner and a better person all around. And we actually, right now we're closed on the restaurant side, on the player side, Mondays and Tuesdays, which as before the pandemic, we weren't. We were always open 7 days, and then the cafe was open 5. The one biggest thing that's probably changed for us for me, at least running the restaurants operations wise, is that Mondays and Tuesdays, the bar side will continue to stay closed for the foreseeable future, because it's made my life personally a lot, I don't want to say easier to operate, because there's always a lot of stress in the restaurant industry, especially with 2 restaurants and a child, but it's just helped it balance a lot more. And especially with staffing, I have 5 days to worry about rather than 7. And it really, Mondays and Tuesdays, they're not money-making days to begin with, even before the pandemic. So right now it doesn't make sense to stress myself out or stress the business out or my employees and my team out anymore for 7 days when we can execute 5 days very well. And I can myself personally be where I need to be, and the businesses are where they need to be. So that's probably, sorry, I just things, but
no, that's great.
As I've gotten older, I'm really big on trying to take care of myself. Whereas I felt like I was saying when I first bought the place, I'm just going to work, 90 hours a week and work so hard and everybody's going to see how hard I work. Well, it's like I was running myself into the ground. So it wouldn't have really sustained over the years if I kept doing that. So I try to make sure self-care is a huge thing for me. And that's, spending time with my son, my family, the gym, whatever I need to do, getting food, like stuff like what Courtney has to offer, because funny enough, I own these 2 places, but I'm vegan. So that's not because of any reason other than it just makes me feel better. But yeah, so self-care, definitely a huge thing for me.
Oh, that's great. That's a great answer. Thank you.
Of course.
Courtney.
I echo a lot of what Jackie just said. It's hard when you own a business to ever step away. And if you don't schedule time for that, just like you would schedule time for anything, it will completely consume you and you'll have no time, because there's always something to do. I have 3 kids. I have a high schooler and 2 middle school. My high schooler is a daughter and 2 middle school boys. And so, I'm still like boots on the ground helping the team in the mornings, but I really make it a point that, I'm home and can be available to get that. I mean, one thing the pandemic's done for my family is, we're being extra vigilant. So we're not carpooling or anything like that right now. So I'm like the one-man chauffeur all afternoon long for my kids' sports and everything. But it's given us like a lot of quality time in the afternoon when you're just alone in the car chatting about life and stuff. So it's been awesome. So I really try to make that a priority. That makes me feel good as a mom, because it's hard to feel good as a business owner, as a person, as a mom, as a wife, as a friend. You know, we're juggling so many hats all the time, and you feel like something's always falling short. So I really try to compartmentalize and put those things first. I love to run. I love to run outside. So that to me is like, I try to do it as many days during the week as I can, even if it's only for 20 minutes, because that's my time where I don't even bring my phone. Nobody knows where I am. I mean, they know where I am, but you know, it's from all the people, including my own household. Yeah. So, you know, that is, it's similar to what Jackie said. That's important to me too. But also, I operate a total body wellness brand. And if I'm not living it, that's going to come through, right? That I want to be able to represent. Your brand doesn't make you, but you represent it all the time as a business owner. And so I can't be telling others, hey, you got to put self-care first, you know, make sure you're taking care of yourself, if I'm not doing it. So I really have to make that a conscious decision to carve that time out for myself, carve that time out for my family. I give 100% to my business all the time, and I need to make sure that I'm, you know, hitting that same mark in all the other areas of my life too. And then also, I think the biggest part of it, just give yourself a break. You know, we're not going to be perfect all the time. We're going to miss the mark a bunch of times. We're not going to do everything 100% at all times. And that's something I've learned as I've gotten older. And I wish if I could go back and tell my younger self something, that would be it. And I tell my daughter and my sons that all the time. It's just always do your best, but you also need to, you know, be kind to yourself.
You're right. And we all have things we want to tell our younger selves. So we can only look in the mirror and say, younger self. But yeah, thank you for both of you. Great responses. And Peter actually has a question.
Thanks. Without getting into your finances or your bankers, I'm curious in your different models. I'm sure there were some issues with capital and cash flow. Did you find your bankers particularly helpful, or your vendors, or even the government programs? And how quickly did you connect with those people to start figuring out contingencies if you were running into cash flow issues?
I know for myself, cash flow was a huge issue for us, especially come like middle of April this last year. I thought I built up a great, cushion, I should say. And we're used to being so busy and operating at such a high volume of sales that the bills were coming in 30 days after we had been closed and just debiting our accounts. And I think it was really lucky that I had such a strong relationship with my bank. Sorry, I know there's a lot of bankers on here, but Eastern Bank is my bank, and that's who I use. And I've had a really solid relationship with them for a long time. And I think they really wanted to make sure they helped me, and they helped me with the PPP process and to get the PPP funds, because that first time I did just receive second time PPP funds, but the first time, I mean, it was do or die at that point. I would have either had to, drain my savings account personal more than I already had. I didn't know what was going to happen at that point, because at that point there was no answer to see when we were going to reopen. So for me, overall our sales were down 72% on the bar side for the entire year. I mean, that's a huge loss, I should say. And all the insurances and all the, all those things are still the same amount of money coming in for bills. But definitely, I think having that solid relationship with them really helped to get me on the forefront and be one of the first people to receive it from the bank.
Most everything shut down last April, and the message we were giving our members very early on that we were hearing from our bankers is get in touch with your banker. Even if you don't need anything right now, just get in touch, make the connections, and if you think you're going to need something, better to do it then if you're going to need forbearance or something. So that was last April. Do you have any recollection as to how fast you connected with the bank, your banker, or the banker connected with you, just to do a check-in and say, I'm not sure where everything's going?
I connected with them immediately when the PPP funding was announced.
Okay.
And then I connected with them, and then I know that it was sent to me the first day that the application process was opened. They sent it to me immediately, and I was being called at home from home when they had already left work to make sure that the process was, going smoothly for me, that I had all the information. I mean, they really made sure I kind of went through the whole thing. So from when I called to when the actual application became present for them online to start applying, it might have been a week.
Great.
It was very fast response from them. And I think it was just a matter of when they were going to have their portal open in order for me to start to apply.
Wow, that's great. I know we have Kim McDonald who also has a question.
I don't have a question. I just want to say
Oh.
how this was, how awesome you two are. I love how you complement each other and just work as a team in this meeting alone. I've been to both places. I love Clandestine Kitchen, love it. And I'm excited that you deliver to Hanson now? I used to have to go pick it up at a liquor store and I would have to buy more wine. And my husband like, what are you spending all this money on food?
Hanson's for getting there, almost, but you're right. We can do that pick up at Ralph's Hingham Wine Merchant. Well, yeah.
That is so exciting. And Jackie I've had fundraisers at her bar, and her breakfast place is awesome. And the gym is definitely working for you. You're both beautiful. And I really enjoyed listening to you guys today. It was great.
Thank you.
Wow, and it's been an honor for me to have this conversation and get to know both of you. I've heard your names, but like I said, I've never met either one of you, and so impressed. Yay to both of you. Kudos.
I'll have to say this, when Heather was, floating this idea around, she was asking Jackie and I think individually at first, and both of us were like, no, we're gonna do this together. We're not like Zoom experts. I don't even know. I think the green light is where I look, but just this little bit of interaction, and she's so busy and I'm so busy right now, but even just like, I did send you an email this morning, by the way. Just that little bit of email interaction that we've had, just planning this and putting it together, has been awesome. So this is a great group. Heather's done a fantastic job with Eat South Shore. So I definitely want to put that out there and just say it's been incredible for not only restaurant and food industry professionals, but I think just for our community in general. So thanks, Heather.
Yes, thank you so much, Heather, for sure.
So I had just got a little chat thing from Jenifer Pinkham. Jenifer, go for it. You're on mute. Oh,
can you hear me?
yeah.
I just sent a message in the chat that my husband was at Players last night and he said it was great.
Oh, thank you. Love our families. Love, love, love.
Yeah, no, it was great. And I just wanted to ask one question, and that is, what did you see as your biggest challenge during the pandemic, and what might it continue to be?
For me,
both of you, yeah. What was the biggest challenge during the pandemic?
I don't know what the biggest was. I think the unknown was probably the biggest fear all around. I think that's for everybody, but especially in the restaurant industry, because it felt like every week something was being announced. It was going forward. It was coming back. We didn't know which way we were going, and we just had to adapt as best as we could and try to do the best we could at all times. I would say for me, staffing was probably one of the biggest issues, because when we were closed, and then when we started to do takeout again, and then slowly start to open a little bit outside and start to bring people back, a lot of people didn't want to come back initially because they had the unknown, and they didn't know if they were going to be making tips, and they didn't know what they were going to do, and they were on unemployment, and there was the plus 600, and I get it. But it was definitely very difficult to start to bring staffing back in the first few months of when we were in the reopening process. And we've now we have a solid crew right now, but we do need to start hiring as we're getting into a little bit of a busier time frame. But I think the staffing was extremely difficult initially.
Did you ever work with any of the local legislators or leaders. I noticed, because I'm at the rink all the time next to players because my son is a hockey player. So I noticed on your sign, you know, COVID goes away at 9 p.m. and some of the messages that you kind of had out there. And I was thinking to myself, oh boy, you know, the restaurant is probably really suffering because of all these restrictions. Did you ever get involved or ever speak to any of the local state reps or state senators or anybody at the governor's office about the impact that COVID was having on your business?
I had answered a lot of questions and worked with some of the local restaurant groups that had been formed that were going to the State House. I actually never got to go. Like with the staffing, I kind of was doing a little bit of everything at all times here. So it was really hard for me to get away from the restaurant at that time. But no, I didn't get as involved with the legislatures as I had. And I'm usually one of those people that's not as vocal about my opinions. But this was the 9:30 shutdown. To me, didn't make as much sense because there's a lot of different opinions, but I just didn't think it did. Basically every person, when we closed down that first Friday night at 9:30 p.m. said, okay, well, I'm going to your house, I'm going here, I'm going there, like all different age groups. It wasn't just the younger groups. We're all saying that. And I just felt like now you're putting everybody into households that are small with no regulations whatsoever. Whereas if you're a restaurant or bar, where, you know, forced and you should want to follow the regulations because that you have to do to operate. I think it was a better scenario to have them in a setting where it was a restaurant than to send people out and then they're still going to go out somewhere. So that's why I had that on the signboard, just because I didn't think that it was actually appropriate, but that was my opinion.
Good question. What about you, Courtney? Have you been involved with any of your local legislators? Legislators?
No, you know, I admire restaurateurs and entrepreneurs like Brian, who owns, you know, Tinks and Trident and the Eat Local group. He's been so active in really helping promote restaurants during this time and fighting for you know, those kinds of changes to happen right now. I personally haven't. You know, getting back to an earlier question, I definitely leaned on, you know, my banker and business advisor, our accounting team, who are all fabulous. I think, you know, those kind of community relationships or those personal business relationships, I like to have them all the time. So, you know, I like to be personally acquainted with the folks who are intricately involved in my business. So it wasn't like I'm calling someone out of the blue going, oh, I have a crisis. You know, we talk all the time anyway. But as far as the legislature stuff goes, yeah, I'm similar to Jackie. We're just kind of busy grinding it out and trying to get it done every day and keeping everything going. So, you know, unfortunately I didn't have a lot of extra time to be able to participate in those things. However, you know, anytime Brian or Heather would forward some things, you know, to sign, petitions to sign, letters to write, social media things to forward, we always participated in that. So we tried to do what we could. Thank you.
So I think I'm going to turn this back over to Heather and Courtney. And again, I want to thank you both so much. And it's clear by all the chat messages that are coming through to me that everyone has enjoyed this and enjoyed knowing you and getting to hear from you. So again, kudos and continue. It's a pleasure.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you both. Personally, I love working with both of you. I love Eat South Shore and everything that we're doing there. And I'm constantly hungry going through the Eat South Shore feed. So I blame you both. But this was great. And I think it's been a lot different than our other ones that we've had in the past. And I think what you're doing and how you've, I hate this word, but I'm going to use it, pivoted in this, new time of this pandemic has been amazing. And I have gotten food from both of you and maybe some apple cider sangria on many occasions, but it's been really, really great. And so thank you both so much for coming and doing this with us. And I just wanted to close out a couple of things. I just wanted to thank our sponsors for Will this year. It's 3 Mentor Advisory, Brigham Health, Hollywood Agency, and Mount One Bank. And just a couple of events that we have coming up is 40 with Forman on March 10th. That is featuring Paul Gorman. And when I was writing it down, I was like, Forman and Gorman, it rhymes. So it's kind of, so just remember that. That's on March 10th. And Mayor Headland's annual address is on March 16th. Coffee Connections is on March 23rd. And we will begin our South of Boston Summit series on April 1st. So that's all on the website. So always just check that. Check your weekly FYI email. If you're not getting that, let us know and we'll make sure you're getting it. And I think that is it. Courtney, anything else?
No, thank you all for joining us today. Thanks, Jackie. Thanks, Courtney. Thanks, Jackie Collins. So many Jackies and Courtneys in here today. And I hope you all enjoy the rest of your week and the weekend.
Thank you. Good job. Bye.